everybody. Welcome to another episode of Casting Notes from Rose and Kim. I'm excited to see you, Kim. How have you been? It's been too long.
It's been way too long, Rose. It's so good to see you, my friend. I'm so
Yeah.
glad we get to do this again. We have
Yeah.
so much fun.
I think we have some great guests coming up this season,
We do.
and I'm looking forward to it. And with no further ado, this week's guest is Liz La Mura.
Mhm.
Did I say that
She's
right?
she's amazing.
She's amazing. She
Liz,
just worked
I
with
met
us.
her working on a feature film last year. She's an intimacy coordinator with an incredible background. She's taught movement for actors. She was a dancer. So she really has a unique perspective on helping actors with those, and not just the actors, but the directors, the producers, the legal, all these aspects of film when it comes to doing the intimate scenes. So with no further ado, I'd like to welcome Liz. Are you there, Liz?
Oh,
There
look,
she
there she
is.
is.
Hi, Liz.
Hi,
Hi. Oh, welcome.
thank you, thank
So
you.
nice to see you.
You as well.
I am
Liz,
fascinated by this topic. I mean, it's so brand spanking new, really. I know it's not that new, but feels real new. And I just want to delve into all the aspects of intimacy coordination. That's a mouthful, isn't it?
It is, and this position started for film and TV, basically when the Me Too movement started.
Oh, that makes so much sense. Obviously. Yes, yes.
Yeah, there was something called intimacy direction on Broadway. That's slightly different, same intention though. And basically, I am a liaison between the actor and production, and I'm an advocate for the actor. So we just want to keep everybody safe on set. And this started, the woman that I trained with worked on a show called Euphoria and many other shows. And HBO is very interested in this new position. As a matter of fact, all of HBO shows now require an intimacy coordinator. So
All of them?
yeah,
Amazing.
yeah. And I think Netflix and other, places are coming through as well. So what happened is she started to do a curriculum and started training other people because productions were asking and she just couldn't do everything. So the training that I did with her is a 6-month training, and we do get certified. And I was certified in December of 2019. Started working, and then March of 2020, the pandemic hit. So things have slowed down a little bit, but I've been working a lot. It's been wonderful. I love what I do. And it's so interesting that I feel like everything I've done in my past came together to this position that who knew 3 or 4 years ago that this position even existed. But I was an actor, I was a dancer as well. And then I got my MFA and I was teaching. I was teaching movement for actors and doing a lot of coaching. And a colleague of mine, I moved to California, a colleague of mine, said, there's this new position called intimacy coordinator. So I started to do some research and I found Amanda. And Amanda is the one that does the trainings and certifies us. And it's just been absolutely wonderful.
Oh, I love it.
I think it's so fascinating. So let's talk a little bit. You mentioned your training. Can you give us like an idea, like for people who think, oh, I'd like to do that? What's involved? Like, is it super selective to get into that program? How long does that program last? What happens once you finish the program as far as getting work? Can you talk about that a little bit?
Is it in person or on Zoom? There's even that. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, so it's so interesting because a lot of us come from very different backgrounds. There's a colleague of mine who was a casting person. There's another colleague who is an actress. Another colleague who came from the mental health world. So all of that is so important, and we get training in all of those areas because um, we have to be sensitive and empathetic to what the actor is going through, because they are so exposed, not only physically, but emotionally and mentally, that we have to, be aware of that. And if a trigger were to happen, which does from time to time happen, we have to be able to work with that person. And I was doing a film where an actor did get triggered. And because of the conversation that we had beforehand, we were able to take him off set and do a little walk and do some breathing, and he was fine. So if you want, I'll explain what I do, how I work.
Oh, I'm fascinated, please.
Yeah, so I will get a script and I'll read the script, and anything that has an intimate scene, I will do a breakdown. So then I speak to the director, sometimes the writer, sometimes the producer, one-on-one, and say, okay, in the script it says, and they have sex. It's like, okay, what does that mean to you? What's your vision for that? So once I start talking to the director, some directors are very clear with the vision that they see in these scenes, and sometimes they're a little perplexed. So what's great is that we have this conversation so they can start to think, oh, I think I want this. I think I want this camera angle, that kind of thing. And the more we discuss it, the clearer that it gets. Then I will have an individual conversation with each actor involved and say, hey, this is what the director's vision is. And oftentimes, there's a legal aspect to it called a nudity rider. And in the nudity rider, it will say specifically above the waist nudity, frontal nudity, above the waist, rear nudity, or just the rear nudity, so that we get really clear, the actor gets very clear about what will be seen. And they have to write off, they have to sign off on that, that they are clear about what will be seen on screen. So I will have a conversation, and sometimes even an actress might say, listen, I would prefer just to have my side breast shown. I don't want my nipples to be shown. I mean, we get that specific. And, sometimes we'll have an actor or an actress where their back will be shown. And I have to get very clear with the director. I said, okay, do we want just a side butt view, or do you want a full rear view? And if it's a full rear view, then I bring that to the actor and say, or actress, and say, this is what we're thinking. How do you feel? And so if there's any issues, I will then go back to the actor and say, to the director and say, hey, this particular actor is not comfortable with X, Y, or Z. How can we have plan B or plan C? Is it a camera angle? Is it, we're gonna hide something with a sheet? We're gonna use some kind of clothing to cover, that area. And so again, the clearer that we get, the better it is once we get on set.
So you're still negotiating, and you're the liaison. So even though they've already signed their full frontal nudity, they're on set saying, maybe I don't want my nipples showing or something, and you're bringing that back to the director.
Well, usually I do that before we get on set.
Oh, you're in with the original contracting of that part of the contract. That's
yes,
smart.
I will get a copy of it and, be very specific with the actor about what you're signing. And interestingly,
so you're not just on set, you're way into pre-pro. That's great.
Yeah, I have a pre-day. Yeah.
No, that's amazing. What
yeah.
were you saying?
Yeah. And so during that, those talks with the director, I might also have to talk to wardrobe, sometimes hair and makeup. And that's why we're called a coordinator, because we're coordinating all of this with the legal and hair and makeup and wardrobe and production and actors and directors. Yeah. So there is something called intimate garments that we use. And SAG-AFTRA has a rule that if there's an intimate scene, that the actors have to have these intimate wear on. Now, these intimate garments are very thin. So what ICs bring, intimacy coordinators bring, are something called a barrier. And a barrier is something, sometimes I make them myself. There's lots of products out there that we keep finding, and we have a Facebook, so we're constantly sharing, new ideas and new products with each other. But basically, it's to cover the genitalia so that genital to genital doesn't touch. And there's lots of tricks that we do as well. But basically, there is something called a barrier that goes either inside or on top of this intimate garment.
That's fascinating. And I love that you guys have a Facebook group and you share.
It's great, isn't it? And it's so crazy to think this is something that didn't exist, 4 years ago.
Right.
And look how far it's come. But by the same token, I think it's going to be interesting to come back and listen to this conversation in another 4 years, because, you are truly creating some things. I know when you were on set with us, the intimacy garments that, our actors had to wear, you had to cut and paste and change, like basically remodel them to make them appropriate for each individual actor, because it's so limited right now what's out there.
Right.
And I think that, in 4 years, that's going to change tremendously as well,
Right.
and we're going to go, oh, wow, how archaic that was that we did it that way.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. And we want to, on these individual meetings, we want to put everything on the table. So there's no awkwardness. So there's something called arousal non-concordance. And basically what that means is that your body has a mind of its own, right? So it's not off, it doesn't often happen, but if your body is put in a certain position, or there could be a certain touch, or there could be a smell or a sound, and the actor or actress may get aroused. And so if we talk about that one-on-one and say, this is a normal thing, you may not even like your scene partner, right? But this bodily function may happen. And once we are, kind of put it on the table and say, hey, this is normal, what we do is we'll have a trigger word. And oftentimes it's just my name, or we'll pick a word. And if that word is used, I know, and the director knows, we need to take a break. And so all that means is, like, we just separate, we take some walks, we do some breathing, and then come back.
Right.
Oftentimes people don't even know why they're triggered, and it doesn't really matter.
Yeah.
The fact is something happened, and it could be an emotional trigger, not only a physical trigger, right? So when we have this safe word, again, the actor's not just, holding on and waiting, for the scene to be over, and then leaving feeling horrible, right? But that we take a break, and it's a normal thing. And, and this has happened to me, and then the actor can go back to work.
I'm sure it's happened with giggles. It's happened with crying. I mean, we do have emotions that even as actors, you can't get over all the time.
Right.
And so, yeah.
And this is, in casting and for the director's standpoint, it's so important for us to get the best performance out of the actor, right? And if they're not comfortable, that's not going to happen. If we don't do everything in our power to say, this is a safe place for you in a very vulnerable situation, we're going to make this as safe as humanly possible so you can give us the performance you need. I feel like the actors, like the minute we said on our film, just so you know, we are hiring an intimacy coordinator as well. They're like, wow, really? That's amazing. Like, and so many actors had never even heard of it, didn't know it was an option. And we're like, we want to make sure that you're comfortable. And like that alone made them feel like they were in a safe space, that we cared about them as humans. Right. And then of course, then Liz steps in and does all her amazing magic. And then they're like, oh, I feel so good about this. And they all felt comfortable with their intimate scenes and that kind of thing. And it was huge. It makes such a big difference in the film, because then those scenes feel very natural, you know, and not that weird awkwardness. But I know we had a set I did, this is before intimacy coordinators were a thing, 'cause this is like 7-8 years ago. And the actress had to be willing to do a, you know, a simulated sex scene. And when we were auditioning actors, we'd say, tell us what your comfort level is going down to. Do you need to be fully covered, like bikini top, bikini bottom? Are you good no top with bikini bottom? Are you good with pasties? No, like, and we gave them lots of options so they could think about it and say, tell us what your comfort level is. And of course we had an actress say, well, I don't care. It makes no difference to me. I'm like, I am not shy. Like they hire her and she gets on set and goes, you know, I changed my mind. And there was no intimacy coordinator for her to step aside. And sadly, we had a male, this was a female, and we had a male director who was like just ticked off that she changed her mind at the last minute. So no one could like really fix that situation, right? And then they're mad at casting. We thought you said she was comfortable. I'm like, I have it on her slate. She is. And so the director's like building his anger. And in the meantime, the more he built his anger, the more this actor was shrinking, and it was making it worse, you know? So had we had the option of intimacy coordinator at that time, like that probably would have been able to, we would easily had a workaround, you know? But I'm sorry, I didn't interrupt you, Liz, you started to say something.
Yeah, no, there have been times where before an intimacy coordinator, where an actor would be on set and a director or producer would say, hey, you know, we think we want to do this with your top off or something like that to it, you know.
Right.
And as an actor on set, you're going to say, oh, okay, even if it's not okay, because you don't want to lose the job.
Right.
Horrible.
Right?
Yeah,
So, or be recast. Yeah. So, you know, again, the preparatory work is so important, because had I talked to, or an intimacy coordinator talked to this actress and say, specifically, this is what's going to happen, you know, their red flag may have come up sooner, and, you know, yeah, could have been avoided.
No, I love that. I started out my career many years ago being a stylist, and I remember one thing that I did was make sure as I'm tugging and pulling on people's clothes that I did it with a physical conviction, that I didn't touch them in a little, you know, lighthearted manner, because people get like really alarmed like that. So what do you do? Are you telling the actors, make sure we're not, or, I mean, I don't think you touched them at all, right?
Well, I help them with their garments.
Okay.
And we'll have a discussion, because there are different kinds of touch, and the way we describe it is romantic. So a romantic touch may be kind of what you're saying.
Right.
A romantic gaze would be looking at someone's eyes, right, and that kind of thing. A passionate touch would be a little bit more aggressive, and, you know, with both parties wanting to do this, but maybe, you know, up against a wall or thrown to the couch, or that's a more passionate touch and feel. And there's going to be more tension in the fingers, say, and then there's dominance, and that's another whole realm. So if we use this vocabulary, then we get an idea, you know, how to fulfill this vision. Is it going to be this romantic thing? Does it then turn into a passionate thing? Does it go back to romantic? And that's when the choreography comes in. And so I'm available to do the choreography. A lot of times directors have directed scenes like this, and they're like, I don't need help. It's like, okay. And then sometimes the director will say to me, help, I don't know how to do this. And so I'm there to help with the choreography, and we get that specific.
Well, and also, and kind of circling back to your question in a little bit different way, Rose, one of the things I love too is that when these actors were going through makeup, because, you know, there were tan lines or blemishes and things, like Liz is there with them the entire time, making sure they also have a comfort level with the makeup artist and wardrobe as well, you know, and, you know, all the little things that were done, like, you know, we made sure that every actor had their own robe, their own slippers, their own, you know, all those things were ready to, you know, at the ready for them all the time. And a lot of that's coordinated by Liz as well. So it's really great.
Amazing. Amazing.
Yeah, and there's a protocol of, you know, when the director says action and the action happens, and then the director says cut, no one's allowed to just go into that scene into that space until the actors are fully covered.
Right.
Yeah, they separate right away. We cover them, and then director will give notes.
Right. And we would say no one's allowed on set who's not required personnel to get this shot. So the script coordinator would be offset, you know, on earphones and not on set. You know, as casting, we wouldn't be on set with them. So no one is allowed to be on set watching. You know, it was strictly like our DP, like a sound boom. And when we could, the sound booms were over a wall, so they couldn't see what was going on, you know, the director, and that's it. Like, and really limited.
Part of my job is watching the monitor, usually with the director, but like Kim is saying, no one's allowed to be watching these monitors either, unless, you know, need be. And so I will be watching for things like, you know, whatever's legally written, that's what we're seeing. I'm also looking to see if we're seeing any garments that shouldn't be there, right? If supposedly they are naked, but we're seeing something, you know, the director might love the performance, and I'll say, we can't use that. You know, unless they're going to fix it in post, we can't use that because we saw, you know, an intimate garment.
Yeah, it's just fascinating. Well, I just love this subject. I love that this is a thing, and I love that we're caring for humans these days and not just treating them like a piece of meat, you know, for lack of better words, which is what was happening before, you know, like, oh, you should be willing to be naked. It's not that big of a deal. You're an actor. And now people are realizing, no, it is a big deal, you know? So
I think similar to what a stunt coordinator does. I mean, they are brought on to keep everybody safe. And it's the same idea with intimacy coordination.
I love that. I love that. Well, Liz, we cannot thank you enough for taking time out of your day to join us on our show. You're just wonderful. You know, I just adore you so much. You're just amazing. So thank you, thank you, thank you.
Thank you. I love what I do. And, you know, I'm so happy that this position is now available for actors.
Well, and thank you for sharing this information with all the actors and producers and up and coming writers and people who will be watching this, so they understand what it is you do and how you're really the liaison that really helps the film or the project do better. You know, it's not, I think that so many people are worried that, you know, bringing on an intimacy coordinator is going to mean you're going to go, no, you can't do this and you can't do that. That's not what you do at all. Your job is to make everything as seamless and comfortable for everyone as possible.
And here's what I say to directors and producers. If an actor in their head is saying something like, I'm afraid they're going to touch my butt. I'm afraid they're going to touch my butt. They're not in the character head. They're in their head worrying. But if we have everything, you know, during the prep we've talked about, and we have the choreography, they know there's a beginning, a middle, and an end.
Yes. Yes. Sure. Yes, exactly. But well, thank you again so much.
You're welcome.
Thanks for coming. Everybody make sure you like and subscribe to Casting Notes from Rose and Kim.
And hit that bell.
Hit the bell, do all the things, and we will see you next time. Thanks so much.
Bye.